But in addition to the visual inspection, Markham takes great care when bringing new stock onto the farm. This includes sourcing from health scheme flocks and also treating for scab and resistant worms.
They get a yellow drench, as we call it, a levamisole drench, and an ivermectin Dectomax usually. We don't dip them usually because later on, by the time they're coming in the flock, the whole flock are dipped, so we dip them then when they're introduced to the main flock. But we isolate them usually for about a couple of weeks at least. Max says it should be longer.
What is the value of isolating, Max? Is it really worth farmers doing that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it should be 4 weeks, Malcolm.
I know,
I've
yes.
told you that.
He's told me before, yes.
But, well, that's time, yeah. It's essential. Scab is obviously one of the main concerns, but any infectious disease, it gives you a chance to spot the disease in the group before it joins the flock. We're very, very fortunate here. We don't have a lot of infectious disease. Our main problems here are parasitic, I would say. But we don't want to bring any disease in. We don't want to bring in CLA, you know, these cases lymphadenitis. We don't want to bring in scab. We don't want to bring in any of these nasty foot conditions. And you only get a chance to stop that happening by effective quarantine and quarantine treatments. So you need I reckon you need those 4 weeks to give you a chance to spot it. Yeah.
So 4 weeks, Malcolm.
4 weeks, clear, yes.
Now, Malcolm, you say that you've been running a health plan and a pretty strict health policy here for a while. There is now the option with a land management contract to actually.
Mm-hmm.
So have you gone in for that?
Yeah, I have, yes. Oh, if there's money available that they've taken off you already, you get it back. If you can, except the vet takes quite a bit of it.
But he deserves it.
Yes, with the murky foot in, yes, he does, yes. But it's something we did anyway, as a farm, and the practice, and we've worked together for a long number of years as far as this is concerned. We were ahead of the time.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yet despite all the diligence and good management practiced at Ardaghy, one growing concern is that of resistance to anthelmintics.
That is also a problem in this part of the world. There's quite a lot of benzimidazole resistance. We think it's not such an obvious problem as the fluke resistance problem, the flucicide resistance problem, because generally the sheep aren't dying with that. There's reduced production in lambs particularly, which are the most susceptible age group to worms. And folk are using these white or benzimidazole drenches and they're not finding they're getting the effect that they were expecting. Lambs are continuing to scour, not thriving. And we get to hear of this, and again, it's a matter of asking for samples to be sent in. Sampling is fundamental to diagnosing parasite problems and resistance problems, I would say.
Malcolm, you obviously go to a lot of trouble and take a lot of care. You involve Max, which is not going to cost nothing. A lot of farmers might say to you that this is a lot of trouble you go to, it's not necessary, it's just a lot of hassle, and to join up with a land management contract, animal health welfare plan is not necessary. What's your response to that?
No, my response is that it is very worthwhile. Keeps the health of the flock first tip-top condition. It saves you money in the anthelmintics that we use and vaccines that we use, and it involves the vets closely in what we're actually doing and keeps the health of the flock in tip-top condition. That's what we're after, to get full production.
Now, Malcolm, you do a lot of sampling here to identify the cause of a problem.
Yes.
That's quite costly. Are you sure that you can justify that?
Yes, definitely. I can put a sample into the vets in the morning, and by the evening I've got the result of that, and then I know exactly what drench to use, and that in the long run saves money because it's an effective drench I'm using, not one that you can put over the sheep's throat that actually isn't getting to the core of the problem.
And how important is it to the speed of the result back to you?
As far as I'm concerned, that's paramount, because it means that we don't have to go and gather sheep twice after sampling to take them in. They can be in the fank, and by the evening we know the result, and we can dose them the next day and they're away back to their pasture.
In addition to his 150 spring calving cows at Drumdoo near Stranraer, Robert Parker also runs 520 ewes, with the aim of getting between 90 to 95% finished off grass. Keen to enhance the health status of his stock, Robert has included the animal health and welfare option in his land management contract.
Well, Robert, you were saying there's some lambs in the field there that you were wondering if they had some worms about them, so
Yep.
I'll just give you a sampling kit. If you can just gather up a group of lambs either into the corner of the field, if you want to bring them into the handling pens, pop them in there, leave them standing for 10 minutes or so, and then using your gloves,
Yep.
as ever, collect up approximately 10 different samples into the jar there, at least half full jar, the more the merrier. Label it up, make sure you've got your name, address, calves, lambs, whatever it's from, age, the identity and the date that it was taken. Pop that into the surgery and we can get you an answer as to whether there's any
Yeah, so if I
worms
get
there or not.
these, if I get this to you today, how long will it be before the result's back?
You get that into us, and we'll get a result back as soon as possible. Probably an hour or 2 hours at the most.
Yeah.
So if you want to dose them this afternoon, you can go ahead and do
That's
that.
great.
The closer working relationship between farmer and vet, afforded by Robert's land management contract, also benefits his vet.
From a veterinary perspective, I would say that it certainly gives a better insight into the individual client and how they farm, and makes us much more aware of what's going on a day-to-day basis too.
Robert, one of the things that you do is that in between scanning and marking, always farmers lose lambs, but you're actually recording where you're losing lambs. What sort of information is that giving you?
It's really allowing me to tighten up some of the management practices that I'm using. You know, obviously if you find out where you're losing the lambs, you can then go and do something about it. Especially, you know, after scanning, I can lose quite a few ewes with prolapses, for example. So, but the only way to really work that out is to count the number of ewes that are having prolapses, and then you can get an idea once you finish lambing as to what you might do for the next year to change that.
If you've identified losses in your lambs which you can't explain, do you then take your problem to Kenneth?
Yeah, obviously, any farmer would try and sort out the problem themselves to start with. Normally, your experience would tell you what was wrong, but obviously, if things start getting out of control, you start losing too many, it's very advisable to go and see the vet. You know, you want to really find out what's the problem as quick as you can before things really do get out of control.